Okay, welcome everybody. In this stream, we're going to be countering Louis Lionheart, a known evangelical Protestant preacher who's been engaged in apologetics since 1998. So he leads this organization called Truth Defenders, and I've already been on his program 3 times. And before I actually did that, I actually watched a lot of his videos on 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica. And while I was never there, I did see the videos on YouTube, and they essentially compelled me to say something about them. And I think that this is the whole premise of the stream is to respond to truth defenders, to Louis Lionheart. And I guess when I was first recommended him one of his videos on YouTube, the first thing I wanted to do was find out exactly who this person was, because people had interpreted him as abrasive, as aggressive, and from both people that were to actually say something about what he said on 3rd Street. So without further ado, let's get right into it right away. Okay, hold on just one diddly minute. Okay. So here's the first thing that we're going to be going over today. Let me just share my screen for a hot second here. Share tab. Share. Add to stage. Okay, so essentially, what that picture entailed is that it seems like Lewis was trying to say that that the actions of a couple extreme Muslims somehow represents Islam. No, no, it doesn't. The way I would say this is we have to do the opposite. I would say that it's the people who are fallible, but Islam is not. And I mean, if someone, let's say, for example, if someone was to crash their own car and they made the claim that their GPS told them to do so, I mean, we wouldn't jump to the conclusion of blaming the freaking GPS for making that happen. I mean, we would investigate how it was used, and that's what matters the most. So I think that we shouldn't, essentially, we should not blame all Muslims for the actions of a couple. That's what I'm saying in response to that picture. Okay, onward.
You can't speak on my mind.
Okay, so what that entailed was this. There actually are limits to what Lewis said. Nobody can be 100% accurate. That's just a fact. That's how humans are wired. And if someone was to present information that's wrong, either intentionally or even unintentionally, that has the potential to hurt their reputation. I mean, somebody on trial could easily say that 12 times 12 equals to 144. I mean, sure, they'll be correct, but if we're talking about philosophical, metaphysical, or theological claims, those aren't empirically measurable in a science lab. And so essentially what I'm saying here is that these fields of study are your responsibility to know where you're getting your information from, and whether that information is essentially rational or irrational. Okay. All right, onward. let's just go ahead and essentially unpack what he says there. Okay. Believe it or not, countries like Indonesia actually first became Muslim through trade and missionary work. I mean, sure, conquests were involved. I'm not denying that. But here's the twist. They never kidnapped people into slavery. They never threatened to kill anybody or steal their land if they themselves become Muslim. And about the whole sex thing, Muhammad actually said not to divide into sex. I mean, there are tons of hadiths you can read that talk to you about that. And the reason why he said not to do that was because it would result in division. These sects that you hear about, such as Sunni and Shiite, arose out of political issues as opposed to religious ones. I mean, the political issues specifically are like as to who would lead the Muslim community after Muhammad's passing, because like one side of the coin said that Abu Bakr should have been the first caliph, and then the other side of the coin said that Ali should have been the first. I think it's somewhat of a problem that Muhammad had not been specific in how to lead after he would be gone, and I think had he done that, it's certainly possible that Islamic history would have taken a different trajectory, or none at all. I'm not necessarily trying to throw anybody under the bus, but I'm just saying that, again, this is why I said earlier that Islam is what's perfect, but people are not. And so I think that these political issues are what caused these sects, although there are a few religious differences that the Sunnis and Shias believe in. I mean, like, I know that they do have like different hadiths, but the way that these like sects formed was like political division, not religious. And also, a Muslim means somebody who trusts God, affirms the Quran, submits to God's will, and contends that Muhammad was the last prophet. It's what Muhammad taught, not what some scholar teaches you. Because if the Prophet Muhammad didn't command or do an action, or if God didn't command an action, it's haram. A good example of this is Mawlid. Mawlid is a contradiction to Islam, since neither Muhammad nor the companions celebrated his birthday. Okay, onward. Let me stop sharing there for a minute. Okay. Okay. Hold on just 1 minute. Share. There we go. Okay. Okay, there we go.
This is typical Muslim. You lie, you distort, you don't answer questions, you're a coward.
Answer question.
Typical Muslim like Muhammad. A liar, a distorter, a coward.
Okay. Muhammad or not, do they have a gang? Do they?
Yes,
all right. So when Louis said all that stuff about him, he did not literally mean he was a typical Muslim. This was some sort of ad hominem attack at him for, I don't know, something he said or another one of his arguments or what. But let me just get this out, that intentional lying and fabrication is actually one of the 70 major sins. So this includes a person that lies on purpose and a ruler being unjust to his or her subjects. All throughout the Quran, you will see that lying is actually strictly condemned. Surah 242 is a good example. And here's a hadith in Sahih Muslim. It goes, truthfulness leads to righteousness. Righteousness leads to paradise. Falsehood leads to wickedness. And wickedness leads to hell. And lying about other people or for selfish gains is haram too. Okay. All right. Onward.
Another place says this, folks. Women had the right to work in America.
They work and they
Now,
can't
can I tell you, because you seem like you don't know. Another place says this, folks. And this is in the Quran that he likes so much.
Oh, okay. So you're
Say,
not listening, right?
if you love Allah, then follow me. Allah will then love you and forgive your sins. The only way that Allah will forgive the sins of a Muslim is if they love Muhammad.
How do you have the TV?
Why does one need Muhammad in order to enter paradise? They put him at a level that Jesus is put at with the Christians. He is the doorway to eternity, the doorway to paradise, the doorway to heaven. Without Muhammad, no Muslim makes it to paradise. I'll give you some more examples.
Okay, this is too easy to respond to. First up, Islam contends that Jesus was just a prophet, as was Muhammad. And let's go ahead and unpack Surah 331 to 32. So let's say we hypothetically have an intern and a real doctor. The intern might carry out orders overseen by the doctor. That doesn't make them the real doctor, they're just under their command. Likewise, Muhammad is a prophet sent by God to preach his word. That doesn't make Muhammad God, he's just under God's command. And pretty much all the prophets acted as like ways to paradise for the people of their time. And what are you going to do? Call them divine? No, of course you wouldn't. So I would say that, sorry, Louis, but that is a weak argument that you made there. And Louis, if you're watching this, you're welcome. You and I can take this up on a stream some other time. Okay, onward.
That's not true because
We don't have Muslim gang or killing or mafia. You do.
Allah and his messenger, Allah and his angels encourage or pray for the prophet.
I don't think so.
And all you who believe, you too shall encourage him and support him completely. So the Muslim is to support Muhammad completely and pray for him. But I want to know, according to the Quran here, who does Allah pray to? Because it says that Allah and the angels pray for Muhammad. So who does Allah pray to? Is there a God above Allah?
As far as they don't hurt us,
That's very
they
curious
don't
to
have
me.
mafia.
The word in the
They don't
Arabic
do
in the
rape.
Quran there is
They
that
don't sell
Allah
drugs.
prays
They
for
don't-
Muhammad.
No.
I'm sorry, but
Allah and the angels pray for him. So Allah has a God that he prays
No.
to.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. Hold on just a second. Okay. Oh, frick. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Come on. Okay. All right. Come on. Okay. Now. Okay. Let me see if I can share this tab quickly. I just take that off the stage. Oh, you gotta stop the screen, huh? Here, wait. Here, let me see if... No, I don't think you can do that. Remove. I guess I can just put it back on. All right. Let me just show you guys something quickly. Share tab. Okay, so
إن الله يصلي على النبي وملائكته يصلون عليه يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما كثيرا. كيف أتعامل مع هذه الآية؟ لاحظوا أن المنتقدين يقولون إن الله يصلي على محمد.
okay, so it's majorly inaccurate. As so when Louis said that God has a God, he's just that's just, sorry, Louis, but that's just the wrongest thing that you have ever said if you're watching this. Because as the Arabic says, sallu, it says Send blessings upon him. It says send blessings upon him and salute him with much peace. Okay. Yes, and so yeah, and another thing is that, so as you all saw in the Arabic, it said send blessings, not pray like we humans do. That seems like the more appropriate way to interpret it. It's much like a coach praising me in front of my team in a good way. That's mere honor, and there's a stark comparison between honorship and worship. Worship is primarily adoration given to God or some supreme being, and honors just simply means positive admiration given to a person. No matter how you try to translate it, it doesn't harm Islam in any way. So, for example, like if I tell my kids that I'm proud of them, that doesn't mean that I'm submitting to them. It just simply means that I'm bestowing my honor upon them. Okay. All right. Onward. All right. All right. Hold on. So next, I'm going to go ahead and address a hadith that he says. And what I'm going to be doing is just debunking his irrational comments about it. Okay. Add to stage.
This. Whoever obeys me obeys Allah, and he who disobeys me disobeys Allah. So Muhammad is at the level of his God right there. You disobey Muhammad, you're disobeying Allah. You obey Muhammad, you're obeying Allah.
What is
Then it
American?
continues to follow.
Why I don't see American talk? Why you here talking? You're not American.
talking about that.
You come from
If
border.
any of you do fail to judge by what Allah has sent down, they are unbelievers. Then it says, if any of you do fail to judge by that which Allah has sent down, they are tyrants. Another one says, if any of you fail to judge by that which Allah has sent down, such are evil livers. And the messenger says, oh my Lord, my own people have forsaken the Quran. And it continues.
He's a psychopath.
But those who disobey Allah and His messenger are transgressors. So it's very clear.
Yeah, right.
Allah and Muhammad are equals in the Quran.
No.
But then the Muslims continue to murder for the blasphemy of their Muhammad. Allah and the messenger says, oh my Lord, my own.
Okay, first let's go ahead and okay, so I do see Surah 547. That's part of the Islamic dilemma. So it does acknowledge that there was revelation given to previous prophets, like, Moses, Abraham, Jesus, and all the others, but it is not saying that the RSV and other biblical translations are free of error. That's not what that means. It's pretty much saying that there was revelation given a long time ago, but that human hands altered it. And the Quran essentially acts as the final revelation. All right.
My own people have forsaken the to disobey Allah and His messenger. Allah to murder laws. If you insult Muhammad, you die. I don't see a law against Allah. I don't see a law against the religion, but there is a law of blasphemy that if you disrespect Muhammad, you will be murdered. This is putting Muhammad above Allah.
No, I don't think that's true. And see, I don't think that. And also, let's not forget that that if all somebody did was, like renounce Islam privately, then there wasn't like any punishment for that. But because apostasy was tied to political rebellion, and if that's what it was accompanied by, then I can definitely see punishments for that happening. But the problem with apostasy in modern times is that like these many Muslim countries are not like caliphates, and so and even many Muslims are, for example, criticizing Saudi Arabia because like they see the government as like being corrupted, and it seems to be placing essentially culture above the faith. And Wahhabism I mean, that was not founded by Muhammad. It was some type of like, you could say, fundamentalist Islam that formed in like the 20th century, and essentially that's what's been governing Arabia. But again, I think that there's a difference between what some modern Muslims might teach and what Muhammad taught. And so there's something else that he said. Let's address that. Let me see if it's no.
America.
Shit, man. That's the
From me lost. They're on the
I
curious
don't
to
have
me.
mafia.
This is put at with the.
Don, don't fight.
Allah, you see?
That is what I
That's
said.
typical.
Now,
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
their false god to Muhammad. Several said.
That's typical.
Now,
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
their false god, Allah, was put aside in obedience to Muhammad.
Okay, two things. One, Allah just simply means the God in Arabic, and I wish that more people came to understand that. And yes, and you will see, like, if you read like a Bible in Arabic, you will see that Allah is used in that translation. And secondly, God is the most high of everything in Islam. And again, Muhammad was only under God's command, not anything else.
Several times, many times. It states this. 5 books
In the Quran.
now.
Right?
In Sahih al-Bukhari, volume 5, books 58, number 244, it states this. The Muslims came to Muhammad and said this: our fathers and mothers be sacrificed for you.
All right. In just a minute, I'm going to go ahead and address that. Okay, go ahead.
Come on, guys.
The runners.
That he likes so much.
Oh, okay, so
And forgive your sins.
No, wait.
you're
Hold on.
telling me what
Looks like I'm going too far.
Hey, come on.
It states this. The Muslims came to Muhammad and said this: our fathers and mothers be sacrificed for you.
Okay. Okay, now, all right. So what this hadith is entailing is that Abu Bakr had expressed devotion to Muhammad, and in response, he just simply got praised for that. The hadith never hints at worship in any form. Yes, it's correct that we Muslims have to emulate the sunnah of Muhammad, but that does not hint at divinity in any way. I mean, like a soldier might express loyalty to the commander assigned to him in his military platoon, and he might express loyalty to him for how brave he is, but that commander is still under the command of of like some type of like leader above him. It's the same thing with Muhammad. Muhammad, again, lived a human life just like you and me, and him, like all other prophets, were under the command of God. I mean, Moses also had great abilities, yet he was under the command of God. I mean, like, for example, like when Moses had to lead the Jews out of Egypt and into the promised land, they had to do exactly what he said, and there were punishments if they didn't. Yet I don't see anybody accusing Moses of being divine. And so, so I would say that, I would say that obeying a prophet is pretty much the same thing as a soldier obeying the commander assigned to the platoon. So I would say that's my response to that.
Nobody gives a fuck who you
Don, don't.
and
Now, can I love Allah, then follow me.
Why
Allah
you-
will then love us paradise.
Okay, but
I'll give you angels and courage to support Muslims. Came to Muhammad and said this. Now, what I said, folks, was
Okay.
Their false god, Muslims came to Muhammad.
Come on.
The right, you see, like,
Allah forgive the sins of Muhammad. The doorway to paradise, the doorway to heaven. Encourage or pray, Allah pray to. That is God that he prays to. Allah. So Muhammad is.
to have a conversation with me or not? I just want to know.
Another verse says this. Whoever obeys me obeys Allah, and he who disobeys me disobeys Allah. So Muhammad is at the level of his God right there. You disobey Muhammad, you're disobeying Allah. You obey Muhammad, you're obeying Allah.
What is
Then it
American?
continues to follow.
Why I don't see American talk? Why you here talking? You're not American.
talking about that.
You come from
If
border.
any of you do fail to judge by what Allah, Muhammad, you're disobeying Allah.
This is not
You
your
obey
God.
Muhammad, you're obeying Allah.
Okay. Right. Yeah, I see what it says right there. But I know he said something about that too.
Judge by what Allah just that's in you.
He's a psychopath.
But then the Muslims, you die. I don't that in practice the Muslims do in fact what God that he prays to. You're obeying Allah. Disobey Muhammad, you're disobeying. So Muhammad is at the
Have a conversation with me or not?
so Allah has a God that he prays. It says this. Whoever obeys me obeys Allah, and he who disobeys me disobeys Allah. So Muhammad is at the level. Now, what I said, folks, put aside and mothers be
Guys, listen.
When women
then follow me. Eternity, the doorway to. I'll give you some more
that's
examples.
not true because
We don't have more.
Messenger, Allah and his angels, and who must the Quran here? Who in the Quran there is?
I just want to know.
Another verse says this. Whoever obeys me obeys Allah, and he who disobeys me disobeys Allah. So Muhammad is at the level of his God right there. You disobey Muhammad, you're disobeying Allah.
This is not
You
your
obey
God.
Muhammad, you're obeying Allah.
What is
Then
American?
it continues to follow.
Why I don't see American talk? Why you here talking? You're not American.
talking about that.
You come from
If
border.
any of you do fail to judge,
Okay. All right. Sorry that I kept rewinding the video because I was trying to find where he said something about a specific hadith, but I couldn't find it. But whatever, because I did see it on his screen there. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. So it says that whoever obeys me obeys God, and whoever disobeys me disobeys God. Whoever obeys the emir, in fact, obeys me, and he who disobeys the emir, in fact, disobeys me. Yeah, I'm open to replying to that. Okay. So to this, I would say that, again, Muhammad was only a human gentleman like you and me. Again, Muhammad is supposed to be a prophet sent by God. So let's say a teacher tells his or her class that a student teacher is going to come in and they have to listen to him, and if not, there'll be consequences. The student teacher is not the teacher. The teacher alone is the leader, but the student teacher is merely under their command. Likewise, Muhammad was merely under the command of God, not some type of equal with God. And with respect to the whole following an emir thing, given that we haven't actually had a caliphate in but a while, I mean, this is not telling me to blindly follow any political leader and believe everything they say at face value without any evidence for their claims. And also, even though we haven't actually had a caliphate in a while, I think the way that this hadith could still work and the way Islam could still stay intact is just simply by trusting in an imam who has his qualifications, is trustworthy, is knowledgeable, and honest. I contend that that is essentially good enough.
says this. Whoever obeys.
Okay. All right. On to the next thing. All right.
validity of any existing religion today other than Islam, such as Judaism, Christianity, and so forth, is a non-believer. He should be asked to repent. If he does not, he must be killed as an apostate because he is rejecting the Quran. So that mosque handing out the Muslim beliefs written by this sheikh says that I and you should be killed for rejecting Islam. Is that a religion of peace?
Why don't we do it?
You tell me.
No, you tell me. If this is true, why don't we do it?
I can give you some explanation.
Have you heard
why
about anybody kill somebody just because he's not a Muslim?
I can give you my explanation. Why aren't they blowing us up right now? Well, there are several answers to that. One, it could be that they are ignorant of their own religion and its teachings, so they don't know that they're supposed to. Two, the sheikh hasn't given the fatwa or judicial declaration that they ought to do it, so they're telling them to wait. Two, they are hypocritical nominal Muslims, is the term that's being used lately, who don't really believe in the whole of the religion and don't think these parts should be implemented today. And in fact, I'll give you an example of that in a second. Or they're practicing taqiyya, deception, and they're waiting for the numbers to increase or the right idiot to go ahead and blow himself up. But they are killing people individually. In fact, we just had a murder by a Muslim who beheaded a lady at work, and instead of calling it what it was, because he was propagating Islam at his workplace, trying to get converts, and killed in the name of Islam, beheaded this lady, and it's workplace violence, folks. Has nothing to do with the religion. You see, this is what's going to be our demise. We need to call it what it is. We don't see Buddhists doing it, Christians, Hindus, atheists. People who claim to follow these religions have committed evils, but they can't justify them from the books. Islam is the only one that can justify its murders, its rapes, its molestations, its abuses of humanity by the book they say comes from their God. That is a huge difference. So why you don't kill me right now, sir, I don't know. But don't think I don't have my share of death threats.
So out of 1.3 billion Muslim, you are talking about very few people, and you think that these are the only people who understand Islam.
Sir,
and you gave several answers.
Most Muslims don't know their
one.
Islam from a hole in the ground, and I appreciate that. Most Muslims out here that say this is wrong, jihad is wrong, I like them, because that means they're not going to cut my head off.
2,000 years.
Jihad is not wrong.
The same. 2,000 years.
And they want to say it's a minority. It's not a minority, folks, because when you have mob mentality, I can show you a video of 12-year-old kid, other kids around him holding down a human being, and the little 12-year-old kid takes his sword and is cutting the guy's head off. I can show you a video where a nice little Muslim old lady grabs the guy by the hair and cuts his head off. And there's a crowd like this of men, women, and children, all Muslims, and they're laughing, they're applauding. So don't tell me it's the minority. It's the culture of Islam that is a culture of death. And why, if it's such a minority, doesn't the majority do something about it?
I can show you a video
Yes,
of
sir.
2.
All right, so this is going to require a lengthy explanation. So let me just comment on that thing he said at the end. Okay, Islam is not a culture of death, okay? As I already said, it's Islam itself that is perfect, but people have, like, I would say that, I would say that unfortunately you will find good and bad people everywhere. And it seems to be the case that he might be referring to an extremist cell who somehow brainwashed a lot of people into thinking that what they were doing is good when in fact it wasn't. And I'm gonna get into this a little bit later, but you know, Muslim authorities have actually condemned acts of terror against innocent people as actually contrary to the Islamic Sharia. And another thing is that taqiyya does not mean that you can just lie to everybody that you meet. As I already said today, Islam condemns lying to people except for 3 cases, and that is in the battlefield, bring peace between people, and making up with their spouse. And even there are limits exercised. I mean, you also can't escape from the fact that one sheikh's view should not represent all 2 billion Muslims, because even they are fallible. And not to mention that instances about apostasy had very little to do with simple change, like private change in beliefs, but it had more to do with the political circumstances of the times. This whole idea that Muslims are willing to strike in a violent way, that's just a mere conspiracy. And the Quran says to respect those in authority over you, as long as they don't hinder you from practicing your faith. And Taqiyya is supposed to be like, I think Taqiyya came out of Shiite Islam, but it later spread to all the forms of Islam. That apparently, like, if you feel like you as a person being dangerous for your Muslim faith, then concealing it through some way to keep yourself safe, it might be the better course of action. So it's kind of like how we had, like, during World War II, we had, like, some people were actually generous enough to hide the people that the Nazis targeted, and if they came by and said, is there anybody like that at your house, and they say no, to lie to protect them, that by itself is not evil. And neither is a Muslim concealing their identity if they don't feel safe in a certain area. And the majority of Muslim scholars, including Salafi, have condemned terrorism, and murdering innocent people is not the Sharia. And I do contend that the media is part of the problem. I think that many of the outlets tend to be biased against them, and I think that needs to be thrown away. And I contend that we have to establish individual accountability, because, like, if one person cheats on an exam, that does not make the whole class consisting of faithful students corrupt. So what I'm saying is that one action shouldn't have to throw billions of other Muslims under the truck. And there have been actually cases where violent Christians have blamed the Bible for their atrocities. Joshua 6:21, and it says something along the lines that they devoted the city to the Lord and destroyed with the sword every living thing with it. And so the Crusaders used that to justify violence towards non-Christians. And 1 Samuel 15:3 was used in a lot of medieval contexts, and Exodus 22:18 had been among the many verses used during the Salem witch trials, which actually took a lot of innocent lives.
Two atomic bombs killed more than 200,000 of people.
We've seen in many videos, especially lately, it's been publicized. I'm sure it's been going on for just as much, if not more, throughout the past years. Just now it's coming more into the international media. But I think a lot of the Muslims that aren't necessarily in those areas like Syria, Iraq, in the Middle East, they know what's going on, they hear about it, and they might as well believe in it. But they're also afraid to talk about it.
That's true.
And if you mention, this and this is happening to them, or this is happening, they know that they've been to their mosque and they've heard their
imams or
they've heard the imams talk, and they know that these people are probably doing the right thing. Those people that are cutting off the head, they're probably doing the right thing, but they'll never say that to your face. You know what I mean?
That's an excellent point.
Okay. Let me just say that simply because you hear about something alone does not mean that you automatically endorse it. Because let's say, I would just happen to be watching the news and I saw a bank robbery transpire. That does not mean that by watching that report, I somehow endorse it. And again, Taqiyya is not a license for mass deception or secretly plotting evil schemes and preparing to harm innocents. And what needs to be understood here is that Islam has been a promoter of justice. And statistically, if Islam really did command the type of violence that all these terror groups that we're seeing today, like if what they were doing really was like commanded, then we'd actually be seeing on a global scale. And the reason I'm saying that is because many of the groups in question don't seem to care one bit about compassion, mediation, or peace. They just care about looking tough and powerful when they've proved themselves to be much the opposite. Not to mention, even ISIS knowingly and intentionally targeted devout Salafi Muslims way more often than anyone else. And we also have an obligation to shine a light on the suffering that they inflicted upon non-Muslim groups as well. And Muhammad himself was known for having protected Christians and Jews as part of the Constitution of Medina, and even tried to establish religious and political relations with them.
Let me show you something that is by the Muslim scholars concerning friendship with Muslims. This is Islamic doctrine right here, folks, and it's documented, and I'll show you right now. And according to Muslim scholars, this is how it's supposed to be. And this is respected Muslim scholars by Abu Darda and Al-Hassan. We smile in the face of some people, although our hearts curse them. A deception, in reference to what Abu Darda just said, a deception allowed until the day of resurrection. That day hasn't come. Now, a Muslim, according to Islamic theology, is to consider a non-Muslim unclean. They're not to shake you with their right hand, they're to shake the non-Muslim's hand with the left, because that's what they wipe their butts with. Because you're dirty and they don't want to touch you with their clean hand. So how is it that they can give us any kind of respect if we're looked at as dirty, unclean, second-class citizens, the worst of creatures according to Islam? There's got to be either you don't really follow Islam or you're practicing taqiyya, which is you're being deceptive. I'll never know what is in his heart. So I can only go by what I've seen historically happen. The Christians in Mosul had neighbors for centuries that were Christians and Jews and Muslims coexisting. The moment the true Islam was brought to the land and Sharia was established, those neighbors that were having dinner with the Christians and the Jews took the sword against their neighbors. What changes? The power, the attitude, the coercion. So I don't know that when the power comes and the influence comes from back home, that he won't take up the sword against me. So I have to be careful, because a Muslim cannot be trusted for the mere fact that he is a Muslim.
Okay, let's go ahead and just unpack what he says there. So I think when he talked about how when Sharia had been set up in these areas, like he mentioned, I believe, I think he was referring to ISIS. And with all due respect, Louis, please stop referring to these guys as true Muslims or bringers of Sharia. Okay, mainstream Muslim scholars condemned ISIS as going against the faith, and there will be more to come about that. And let's go ahead and unpack that hadith he said. Okay, so he said that Abu Darda said that we smile in the face of some, and our hearts curse them, apparently. So the history of that hadith is that there was a time where the Muslims lived among non-Muslims, and it just refers to times when open confrontation wouldn't have ended too well. And if the non-Muslim is genuinely hostile, or just it could simply be an attempt to keep peace. I mean, similar to how a president might visit another country's president. Sure, he might secretly disagree with some stuff, but neither of them are inherently evil in any way. Surah 98:6 is not saying that every last non-Muslim is evil. It's just a reference to those that actively persecuted Muslims and willfully and rebelliously rejected God in the Quranic revelation. So Surah 68:8-9 says, God does not forbid you from dealing kindly and fairly with those that have neither fought nor driven you out of your homes. Surely God loves those who are fair. This is teaching that if a non-Muslim treats you well, you might as well return the favor and treat him nicely back.
Just to back up what you're saying, I think on a macro level, they get together with their friends on the idea of fear. I think a lot of Muslims, I can't recall on national television a Muslim, like a real Muslim group getting up there and condemning Al-Qaeda for 9/11. I don't recall. I'm sure it happened maybe once or twice, or maybe it didn't. I don't recall a Muslim groups getting up there on TV, on stage, at events, and apologizing that in the name of Allah, in the name of their God, 3,000 people were killed on American soil. So if I were to rewrite the dictionary and put the word real Muslim in the dictionary, I would put the word, or ISIS, I would put the word animals right next to it.
Oh, well,
that's where they belong.
Yeah.
Animals, that would be a compliment, actually.
Yeah. Here's the...
Okay, so this is going to require another lengthy explanation. That's just false, that no Muslim condemned Al-Qaeda for 9/11 and apologized for the attack. That's absolutely false, okay? And lots of Muslim groups actually did condemn ISIS and condemned Al-Qaeda for 9/11. So we have Al-Azhar University, and they actually condemned both these groups as actually, again, contradicting Islam. And there was a mufti of Saudi Arabia who died recently, and he himself contended that ISIS and Al-Qaeda are actually contradictors of Islam, and there is evidence that mosques and individual Muslims and Muslim communities, not just in the US, but around the world, and even countries like, like Iran and many other Muslim nations actually held memorials and mourning for the civilians that had lost their lives there. And not to mention something else that guy needs to work on is do not call ISIS emulators of Islam, okay? And he didn't have to use such mocking and dehumanizing language to describe Muslims, okay? I think Asim al-Hakim was the one that described ISIS as being called NISIS, the non-Islamic state in Iraq and Syria, because again, their actions have shown to contradict Islam. Okay, moving on. All right. All right. Okay, hold on just a minute.
Who have been enslaved by the religion of Islam.
You're lying.
That veil is a veil of submission, a veil of enslavement. They're dehumanized. They are not. They're phantoms. You don't talk to them. You don't reach out to them. You don't look them in the eyes. You don't shake their hand. They're hidden behind the veil. And you don't see the tears. You don't see the hurt. You don't see the bruises. And I ask any women here who have a conscience and believe in Christ to reach out to them and not let them walk away with the pain that they walked up with.
You're a liar.
Now there are those that have been under that subjugation for so long that they'll defend their position. They'll fight to defend
You don't care
Islam.
who you insult.
But that is not doesn't mean Islam is true, folks.
All you care about is your pride.
So what I ask you people to do is to study the religion so that you might understand what it is I'm doing out here.
You want to be
All
right.
of these bullet points that I present, all of the information that I give you out here, it is for your benefit, for the benefit of the Muslims, for the benefit of humanity. Because Islam is detrimental to humanity.
Okay, my first question to Louis is, if it really is detrimental to humanity, how is it that it's so fundamentally different compared to other beliefs? Because, like, it actually abolished many of the things that previous religions did. Because I know that, like the Greeks, and I don't know if it was the Greeks or the Romans, but they normalized public nudity and many other lewd behaviors, as did the Quraysh, I believe. You know, the Quraysh actively mistreated women in Arabia. And even today, you will see many non-Muslim societies that normalize, gambling, smoking, alcoholism, going to bars, and going to these, and going to parties with, alcohol at them. And you will see that many of that stuff that I mentioned is actually haram in Islam. And many Muslims have themselves reported that they feel a sense of spiritual discipline, and they feel, and many, like, there are some families that feel like they're strong spiritually, and feel like they feel good about themselves, and they feel close to God. So I do not contend that it's the faith that's detrimental. Some people are what's detrimental. Okay, now let's go ahead and address those comments he said about, like, the whole hijab thing. So he blindly assumes that position without any actual leads or evidence to support that, likely just a paranoid type fallacy. I mean, for example, not everybody that wears glasses is blind per se. And just because someone wears more clothes than you, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's something bad about them that you don't know. And I would say that forcing someone to dress covered or even forcing someone to go uncovered is equally bad, because there regrettably have been these trafficking operations that miserably humiliated women, and they were nearly unclothed, and they endured such painful humiliation. And I do admit that ISIS misused clothing like the burqa to keep women under their dominion. That, however, isn't how Muhammad ran things. And there is also, I believe, there's a hadith that said to if you force somebody to adopt Islam, then that person wasn't truly a Muslim. And so your faith in Islam has to be sincere, because your belief in the Shahada has to be from your heart. You got to actually, for example, believe that there are no other gods but God, and that Muhammad is his last prophet. You got to believe that from your heart. And if somebody's forcing you to do that, then you can't really say that for sure. And many of the issues that where women have been mistreated by families is not something that Muhammad commanded. Rather, they were merely cultural issues. And many imams have actually condemned those types of behaviors too. So that's pretty much my response to that. And a comparison I could also make is this. Let's just say that at a jewelry store, we have a very specific piece of jewelry that has a ton of value, that they keep it behind a glass pane. That's definitely not to say that the object is worthless. Given that it has a ton of value, I'm not so sure that anyone would be too happy with anyone just walking up to it and touching it. It's keeping it secure that actually defends its value. So, because there are tons of hadiths and Quran verses that essentially empower women, and many of Muhammad's wives, even after he died, testified that they loved each other. And Aisha said nice things about Muhammad even after his passing. And after Islam had emerged victorious in Arabia, many of the stuff that the Quraysh used to do was done away with. Because I know that there's a verse in the Quran that says that if a baby was born and it was a girl in Arabia, they were either mistreated or even tragically buried alive. And essentially, Muhammad and the early Muslims essentially abolished those practices. So I would say that it's certain people that that might have caused harm, not the faith itself. Okay. Now that we're done with that, let's move on to the last thing. Or no, wait, actually, there actually was something that I wanted to share about these terror groups. Let me see if I can put it up on the screen right quick. Let me just remove that. There. Okay. So, I already said earlier that Muslim scholars have unanimously condemned groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS as being contradictory to Islam. And again, many Muslim communities condemned what happened on 9/11 and the actions of ISIS, for example. That has been roundly condemned and essentially spoken of negatively by mainstream Muslims. So here's a hadith concerning the Khawarijites. It's rebels with beautiful preaching and evil deeds. Anas ibn Malik reported, the messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, said, there will be division and sectarianism in my nation, and a people will come with beautiful words and evil deeds. They will recite the Quran, but it will not pass beyond their throats. They will leave the religion as an arrow leaves its target, and they will not return to it as the arrow does not return to its bow. They are the worst of the creation. Blessed are those who fight them and are killed by them. They call to the book of God, but they have nothing to do with it. Whoever fights them is better to God than them. This is in Sunan Abu Dawud 4765, and it's been classified as Sahih according to Albani. Ibn Kathir said that if the Kharijites ever gained power, they would corrupt the entire land of Iraq and Syria. They would not leave alone a boy or a girl or a man or a woman, for in their view, the people have become so corrupt that they cannot be reformed but by mass killing. So I think that closely mirrors ISIS in these other groups, because we are noticing that this is talking about how the Kharijites takfired Muslims that spoke out against them, and ISIS did the same thing. They takfired and executed Muslims that so as condemned and spoke out against their rule. So I think it's time for us to essentially stop calling those groups Islamic. That's pretty much what I have to say about that. All right. Good thing I remembered that. All right. So the last thing that we'll be doing for the night is this. So I had been on a stream with Louis, like I actually got to talk to him like myself. And we talked about, the idea of do the Bible and the Quran promote reason. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. Chrome tab.
Just a second here. You mentioned earlier on about the Bible saying question, ask. If you hear something, look into it.
Right.
It puts the ownership of your investigation on you. You don't just go rely on someone else. The Quran has the opposite. In fact, it tells you not to question, do not ask about what matters, which may, if made clear to you, may disturb you.
Actually, here,
don't ask.
Here, I think, may I just please rebuttal that for a minute? So if it's possible, can I just share my screen to show you something in response to that? Is it present?
Yeah, and let's keep it.
Okay. Those who are deaf, dumb. Surah 8:22. Indeed, the worst of living creatures in the sight of God are those who are deaf, dumb, and who do not use reason. So that basically is saying that you should do not blindly accept anything just because you saw it. It's. I think what it's telling me to do is question what I'm being told.
What
and
you're now adding interpretation to it. You're adding words to the text.
But it said those who are the worst of creatures are those who do not use reason, as the text just said. So I think that's sufficient in response to what you just said about rejecting.
Whoa, did I do that?
No, I did.
Oh.
Quran 5:101. O believer, do not ask about any matter which, if made clear to you, may disturb you.
Okay. So now, so as you guys saw in that stream, I'd use Surah 8:22 as a defense for the fact that Islam says that it's okay with you critically thinking. So again, I said that it's telling me to not blindly accept something at face value just because either someone told me about something or that I saw it. And then I contended that what it's telling me to do is that I have to question what I'm being told. And then, of course, Eric, his co-host, accuses me of adding to the verse. So then when he shows me Surah 5:101, I do know the perfect rebuttal to that. Surah 8:22 uses the Arabic word yaquluna. Okay. Let me see here. Okay, good. I should still have some time. Okay. Let me go ahead and put that up on the screen for you guys. Stop. All right. So, inna shara il-dawabi inda illahi ulsumu البكم الذين لا يأكلون.
يعقلون.
Okay, let me see. Is there a tafsir or something? Okay. So here is one good tafsir. It says, "Be not like those who say we have heard, but they have hear not." So Ibn Ishaq contended that this ayah refers to the hypocrites who pretend to hear and obey, while in fact they do neither. And God declares that these are the most wicked creatures among the children of Adam. Okay. And so if we go into an Arabic dictionary, here, let me see what I could. So, yeah, okay, good. Aha. Okay, let's. Oh, you can only share one thing at a time, huh? Okay. Okay. So, I'm on the Quran dictionary right now, and Yaquluna, each of these are saying you use reason, use your intellect. They understood it. Yeah, all these are, they're all, so 822 is not the only story where this appears. So it's, looks like it's in a few other chapters, and they're all they're all saying the same thing, like understand, intellect, reason. So a way I would interpret all this is this. So kiluna, one way to say it is intellect. So think of it like this. So the worst of long drivers are the ones that refuse to use a GPS. In 5101 could be like saying, why doesn't the GPS also show me the mountains or other stuff? It might as well just show me the cosmos and space. So Surah 5101 merely forbids people from asking useless and unnecessary questions. So there's also a tafsir I found about that verse. So I'm going to go ahead and show it to you guys, okay? Okay. Okay. All right. So this verse forbids people from asking useless and unnecessary questions because some people used to put such questions to the Holy Prophet as were of no practical good for mundane affairs nor for spiritual uplift. For example, once a certain person, while singing a gathering, asked him, "Who is my real father?" Likewise, some people put unnecessary questions concerning legal matters so as to get these defined, whereas they had been purposely kept undefined for the good of the people. For example, when Hajj was made obligatory by a commandment in the Quran, a certain person had heard and instantly asked, "Has it been made obligatory to perform Hajj every year?" The Prophet didn't make any reply. Repeats the question, but he kept quiet. When the man had put the question for the third time, he replied, "Woe to you! If I had said yes, the performance of Hajj every year would have become obligatory to you, and people like you would have been unable to perform it and been guilty of disobedience." The Holy Prophet himself forbade people to ask questions for the sake of it and to probe into things aimlessly. So it says aimlessly. And if the questions were of no practical good for mundane affairs. So, and it even says unnecessary questions. So, 5101 is not inherently saying that you should just shut your brain off to evidence. It's just simply, as the tafsir just said, it's just a condemnation of repetitive, excessive, and unnecessary questions. 822 it does teach you to ask questions and to use reason, but Surah 5101 is pretty much saying to not ask, again, repetitive, excessive, or unnecessary questions. That, I would say, is how I would defend the notion that it's okay for me as a Muslim to critically think and ponder things. And And there's another surah, and I'll pull it up for you guys right now. And it's okay. Let me share. And it says, oh, do they not then reflect on the Quran? Had it been from anyone other than God, they would have certainly found in it many inconsistencies. Okay, so in here, God commands them to contemplate about the Quran and forbids them from ignoring it, or ignoring its wise meanings and eloquent words. God states that there are no inconsistencies, contradictions, conflicting statements, or discrepancies in the Quran, because it's a revelation from the Most Wise, worthy of all praise. Therefore, the Quran is the truth coming from the truth. Is the truth coming from the truth, God. Do they not then think deeply in the Quran, or are their hearts locked up from understanding it? So, I just showed you guys not one but two verses which are calling Muslims to use their brains and not shut them off. So, I'm going to remove that from the screen. All right. So I would say that that's everything I got for today. And I do plan on making more videos replying to not only truth defenders, but there are more critics, because I know that there's David Wood, Hatun Tash, Glazov, and many, many others. I know that so these guys are Christians, and I also know some atheists I plan on replying to as well. I mean, like, meaning that I'll be making like whole streams about them and essentially calling out the inconsistencies in their arguments. So with all this being said, just voice your thoughts by commenting on this video, showing that like button and that subscribe button, no mercy, and just let me know what you guys would like to see in the future. All right, guys. Gen Z Dean signing off. Good night, kids.